you found the skeleton, how would you tell people that this is you personally? How would you decide?
Well, interesting question. I don't know. I'd have to do some research on that.
All right, hey everybody, it's Dapper Dino here for the after show for the Did the Titanic Sink? Right now we have James and James Downer, RJ Downer, and Leo, and we're hoping that Rose will come in. I did get an email from her saying that she would, but let's start with RJ. RJ, what did you think about the debate? And I'm not timing it, but keep it pithy.
Yeah, well, I'll keep it short and sweet. I found out what I wanted to know, which is he was shilling for the Gardner insurance scam theory, and so basically that was following that line. He didn't even offer any of the weirder anti-Semitism conspiracy theories, although he bumped into it at one point or another. It was very hard, as usual, to avoid jumping on him and wanting to strangle him because he's an idiot. But I try to keep restrained as much as possible. But I got all the material I wanted across and probed to best of my ability how little research this guy has done and how little he knew about the subject.
Yeah.
Not that I was shockingly surprised at that, but still.
No, there is one thing that actually, you know what? I'll say it when it gets to my turn. So Leo, you go ahead. Leo, I think we might have lost Leo.
Leo's frozen.
Leo, you might have to disconnect and reconnect, man. I don't know.
Leo has been.
So I'll say one thing.
Dimension.
There was only one real point that came across from the Titanic didn't sink side that I didn't think was really well understood by you and Leo, and it was the motive, right? Mm-hmm. So now I don't know how much of this is actually something that is historically accurate, but the argument seems to me to be so because the White Star Line was found liable for the damages to both its own ship, the Olympic, as well as the Navy ship that it hit. Insurance was not going to pay out for any of that. And they, according to this argument, the Olympic was not going to be salvageable in the long term, and the insurance wouldn't pay out at all. So currently they were sitting on a roughly $10 million asset that was currently worthless. And so by sinking it, pretending it was a different ship, while they couldn't recover the 10 million, they could recover apparently 7 million or something like that, and thereby reduce the loss that they had taken. So they were already down, they're already at minus 10 million apparently for the ship. If they swap it out for the Titanic, now they'll only be at minus 3 million, which, I mean...
Yeah, well, I understood that argument. I didn't think it mattered if he didn't show that the damage was as bad as Gardner claimed it did. And I tried repeatedly to drag him onto, how did you check that out? And he merely repeated it as a trope.
Okay. It just, and maybe I'm incorrect about this, but it seemed like the main refutation that I heard was that the insurance didn't fully cover the cost of making the ship. And maybe that isn't what you guys were trying to get across as the main point.
Yeah, I think he would have a legitimate point that they would be cutting their losses if the original claim that the ship was functionally unseaworthy and was doomed, that it was going to have to be irreparable.
Okay.
Which is Gardner's argument. The problem is it isn't true. And the Olympic always had a little bit of problems with it. It was an older ship. It was the first one, all the little teething bugs. That was one of the reasons why those millionaire suites and stuff were put in, and the enclosed compartments up on A deck, the promenade. That was to strengthen that section of the ship because they had found stress fractures on the Olympic in that zone, and they were still there afterwards. I mean, that absolutely none of the crew of Olympic ever noticed that they had suddenly had a new ship swapped out.
Hey, look, Leo's back.
I'm back. Yeah, my internet went out. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's all right.
Leo,
it got accidentally unplugged.
You froze and went into hyperspace.
Wait, what's going on?
So
Alex was accidentally unplugged.
We're currently still.
Was it accidental?
I don't know. We're still waiting. Hopefully Rose will join us. She does have the link, and she did send me an email saying that she was planning on joining. So fingers crossed. So we had just been, because you disconnected, we were just been talking about. It seemed to me, and maybe I'm just, I didn't get it, but it seemed to me like you and RJ's big counter to the insurance thing was simply to point out that that basically the ship was underinsured. And RJ agrees with that, but what I was telling RJ was that during the debate, it seemed like the counter that you were giving simply was that it was underinsured, which isn't actually a counter to the argument. Because no one was disputing that it was underinsured, including the people giving that as the motive. And so it seemed like it was an odd way to counter that, because the thing is, if the story about the Olympic being essentially unsalvageable is true, then it would make sense to try to get the insurance money if that was in fact the most that you could recover from the ship, now that you can no longer continue to operate it long term as an ocean line.
Yeah, and that's why I was going after the fact that was a false assumption, that there was no motive for that insurance scam if the Olympic was not in fact not going to be able to sink flush.
Right, that's a good counter. Because if the Olympic is salvageable and can continue to run for less than the insurance money, which it seems like it was according to at least the historical mainstream, then that does negate the motive. So it just, maybe I misunderstood the points that you guys were trying to make. But Leo, what did you think of the debate since you're now back?
Then the other hit that I was
well, hold on,
to do...
RJ.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Leo.
Well, it was certainly interesting. Alex did not like being asked questions. I found that out really quickly. That's about the only thing I did, because that's about all I had was just questions as to how this all happened and how it all played out. And the biggest question I think that I asked and that he gave didn't do, it's not really an unsatisfactory answer because it wasn't really much of an answer at all, was if this event really happened and they switched the ships, they would have obviously switched the names of the ships. And he agreed with that. And I said, well, so then that means that technically it was the Titanic that sunk. I mean, if you rechristen a ship from Bradley to Jeffrey, and then the Jeffrey sinks, the Jeffrey sank. I mean, I
get the point.
That's so.
That's a bit of a dodge on. One I didn't even bring up was the white paint issue.
So my reason why I get the point of that. Oh, Rose wants to come in. Oh, I'm almost at the wrong button. Admit. Rose, how are you? I almost accidentally hit deny entry, and I was like, oh. So, Rose, what I like to do here, you've been on one of these, but it's been a while, is I like to give everyone a chance to say what they thought about the debate, which I think actually means you're up.
Okay, I didn't get. First of all, Jason's here and he says hi.
Oh, hi, Jason.
I really love all the information that you guys brought to the table. Obviously, I did not come to that debate prepared at all. I just, I was just going off common sense without knowing very many details. I listened to like one documentary that was sent to me, and then I saw that footage of the M&P, and I thought that was very interesting. So I kind of wish that James didn't ask me to come on and do debates on things that I didn't research first, but I figure it would be a good opportunity for me to learn. So anyway, I totally appreciate everything that you guys shared. And I still obviously feel like it makes sense that this whole insurance scam went down. And so I think what would really sway me is to actually just show me the stuff that you were talking about, like the boilers or whatever evidence that you want to share with me. I totally want to see it.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to give my quick take on the debate. And then we'll open up to a whole lot more discussion. Although first, I do have a question for Rose after I give my take on the debate. So it's not a very long question, not very complicated. Don't worry about it. So for me, one thing was I have to give props to Rose for being by far the best behaved debate participant on that one. So
absolutely.
All three of the rest of you do in fact have an over-talking problem that has even come up in this stream, RJ.
Oh yeah.
So if it had been me moderating, I probably
bad
would have
boys.
gone. I probably would have gone to like a 3-minute timer for every speaker, and you just get 3 minutes, and then you just have to be muted until it's back to you. But I mean, it's not my channel. It's not my show to moderate. Whatever. That's what I would have done. I actually don't really know enough
Jason
about.
doesn't want to be, or James doesn't want to be a tyrant.
Yeah, I know. I actually don't think I know enough about the Titanic to realistically assess this on my own. So I do what I usually do, which is if there's a consensus among people who are experts in a field, I usually go with it unless I have compelling evidence not to, which does happen occasionally, but fairly rarely. So on this one, I'm sort of like, I haven't looked into it, but the didn't sink side didn't impress me with the level of research. And I know for Rose, that's obviously because this was a last minute thing for her, so no shade on Rose for that. But my question for Rose is, Rose, why don't you sometimes go on just you and someone else? I think Alex is actually dragging you down in both of the times that I've seen him and you together, which was once with me and then now with RJ and Leo. Because honestly, I think that you would have, because look, we've had a conversation before. You can have really fun conversations with people. You're not mean. You don't name call. You don't scream over people. I would so much rather see you on Modern Day Debate without Alex than see you with him, because I think that you are missing your opportunity to really get out there and have a really good discussion by virtue of having partnered with him twice now. So
yeah, you're
ask
totally
questions.
right.
You naturally.
RJ, that was for Rose. We're gonna let her go. I'm laying down the hammer.
No, I totally agree with you. So I would have done this debate by myself, but I didn't know enough about the topic. So I would go back on Modern Day Debate by myself, absolutely, but I have to really know what I'm talking about. Even with the flat earth topic, that was really hard for me because I was brand new at it and I didn't even know a lot about the heliocentric model. And so even though
I'd love to have a one-on-one discussion with you about that. Just because I listened to one of your debates and I was like, this sounds like somebody that you could actually have a discussion with on this topic.
Yeah.
Which would be refreshing.
Yeah, I'm not married to the idea either. Like I just, so I guess I'm kind of like the opposite. I really respect, like when you were describing your take, like I usually go with the general consensus of the experts, and that definitely makes sense to me. And so I guess I have this issue with authority and our government system, and I just don't trust history. I have a lot of trust issues. And so by default, I like to auto hoax a lot of things, but I let everyone know that that's where I'm coming from. Like I'm going to start from this cognitive bias, and then I'm going to try and search for something to convince me otherwise, and I'm going to be totally open to it. So I guess that's just my style of approach that I'm going with. But in any case, just to directly answer your question, I'm so busy with work right now. As you know, I produce Crow 777 Radio, and we've been doing 2 shows a week, and we just started covering all of these legal ideas with people who are interested in fighting back against COVID related restrictions, not to get off topic. And so, but when I have time, I really do want to dive into like some weird topic that we never cover on Crow 777, and then do like a solo debate. And if anyone has like an idea for that topic, let me know. Or maybe I can even go back into the dinosaur thing. It's just that you offered such compelling evidence. I don't think I want to debate against the dinosaurs anymore. So I just need to find a topic that I'm passionate about.
One thing about the dinosaurs thing is we could just have a discussion that isn't a debate. That's an okay thing to do.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, if you want to set something like that up, I'm sure I could find a spot in the schedule for a discussion just about how paleontology works, what dinosaurs are, all that stuff. I lost a train of thought. There was a thing I was gonna talk about, and now it's gone, and I blame RJ.
Okay.
I have no reason to blame RJ. I'm just doing it.
It's my fault. Yeah.
Well, I think now then it would probably be a fun time to get into some of the stuff that
I'm an old man ready to have a heart attack, so it's easy to blame me.
Yes. Well, I think it might be fun now to get into the stuff like the alleged findings of the M&P on the Titanic in the wreckage, and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Because I mean, like I've said,
Yeah.
I don't know the first thing about it. I mean, I saw the movie Titanic a few times, and I don't know. Oh, the thing I wanted to say was, Rose, when you say you don't trust history, do be aware you are in a room that is 50% history degree holders.
Ooh, I don't mean to offend anyone. I just mean that like history is written by the victors. History is a lie agreed upon. That it might not
As-
be exactly how is described, and that maybe there might be a little bit of an issue in the chronology. But I am no expert on it. And I do have one question about history, just since you brought it up. Just before I forget, how many people in chat? I have to go to your channel. I'm not looking yet. How many people in chat remember or learned about the historical event Black Tom?
I don't believe I've heard of that one. But
I am just amazed by this
I don't recall
story.
it right off the bat.
guys, if you've heard of Black Tom, put a 1 in the chat, and I will try to add those up.
I'm coming to the chat right now.
Yeah. So, guys, put a 1 in the chat if you,
Oh, wait, I
if you
need it.
remember something from history about a Black Tom. I don't. I know of Moses the Black.
Okay, so this is so wild because I growing up I loved history, and I was going along with the mainstream narrative for a long time, but I never was taught this, and I think it's so interesting. I'm just always wondering why. But apparently there was some kind of explosion from there was an attack from the Germans, and there was such a huge explosion in New York that the torch was damaged, and that's why no one's ever been up to the torch of the Statue of Liberty. And the reason why I thought this was crazy is because I remember when 9/11 happened, everyone was saying like, oh, 9/11 is like the second terrorist attack because Pearl Harbor was the first, technically. And then I found out about Black Tom, and that was a foreign invasion. So I don't know why that was never put into the mix. So that's the only thing I have to say about that. I thought it was very interesting. Just look up Black Tom. It's a historical event I didn't know about, and I really enjoy reading into it.
Apparently it was a World War I act of sabotage by German agents to destroy
I didn't know
munitions.
under that name.
Yeah, so I will say, my
it
degree
clearly isn't the case that no one's ever been up in the torch, because it was freely used, and people would film up there every once in a while. It just is.
Are you sure you're not
They
talking
didn't
about
want
the
a hell of
crown?
a lot of people
I thought
wandering
they've been up
around
to
up
the
in
crown,
there
but
because
not
of the
the torch.
staircases and other kinds of things.
Are you sure you're not thinking about people
up
going
until quite
crown?
late in the game, they kept that open until it was getting frustrated on there. Oh, I've been up to ground, but no, there have been various documentaries and others that would film up in the torch during that period, but they had to get special permission. I think I seem to recall there was even a shot in Funny Girl or something where she's standing up on top of the torch, and it pops up every once in a while in movies. But the thing is because it's a much spindlier area, it's up in the arms, so you're putting stress on it. They didn't want tourists running around all over the place. It's way far from Wall Street. I can't imagine a bomb blast that would have been sufficiently strong to damage it from that direction. And I know I haven't been in it was the most horrific sauna to go up, walking up into that in like 80-degree weather. It was like a broiler. You a pile of sweat to get up into that area, and the crown area is really quite small, so that all of the ladder ways and everything is very constrained. But I think that it's probably just a folk tale that they were preventing people ever to go up in the torch. They just didn't want to put the stress on it of having all those tourists running up and down there, because you have to walk it up the ladders. There's no elevator at I think they changed that now.
Okay, so you're questioning whether or not it's because of this explosion that people don't go into the torch. It's just because it's not reasonable to allow them to do that in order to preserve it. Yeah, which I totally accept that. I only just brought up
it would be
that
quite
because
independent
I
of
always
that.
loved history and I had never heard of it before in school, and I just always wondered why it was never taught. I have no conspiracy theory
Well, that would
related.
explain why, because it wasn't the thing.
well, so the explosion was a thing.
There were a lot of bombings around, not only just the. Yeah. I mean, there was that German plot in there. There were also anarchists. The famous bombing in Wall Street in 1919. There were lots of things going along, and it's part of the historical record. It's not invisible. And if you were operating at like the college level, all of this stuff would be readily available. What filters down to high school books, and that Oh boy, by definition, any high school textbook is a somewhat sanitized work that was done by committees drawing on the history work of about 20 or 30 years earlier.
So
And that window hasn't really changed much, even down to today.
We are getting some people who from chat who are claiming to have checked and say that it did damage the torch. And if I remember correctly, the torch was replaced at one point. I think that may have actually been related. But yeah, the torch currently is a place that someone can go. But it's sort of like, remember when we talked about seeing the behind
Dinosaur bones?
Yeah, the dinosaur bones, like the collections of museums that aren't on display. You can't always just walk in and be like, hey, I demand to see your off-display collection. However, it's also not really that difficult if you have, like send an email or a letter, make a few phone calls, set up an appointment, that kind of thing, right? So it seems like we're in the same kind of situation where not public access automatically isn't the same thing as being hidden away. We have a $5 super chat from Carrie Bronson, who says, no idea what's happening, but have a donation anyway. Thank you very much, Carrie Bronson. The void looks upon you with favor.
I'll point out that the torch had about a decade extra wear to it, because before it was installed at its present location as a completed statue, it was on display as a partially assembled torch, just sticking up like that, at the 1876 Centennial exhibition. And then after that, it was moved and sat for many years in the middle of Madison Square as a tourist attraction. And people would go in and walk up and down on that. So there were footfalls and stresses, all of that going on for about a decade before the finished statue was constructed in the 1880s and everything, all the pieces were put together. The crown, by the way, was on display for a while at the Paris World's Fair in 1879, I think, 1878, Paris World's Fair. They were all trying to raise money for the base. The big part of the statue is actually the base part, and that took a hell of a lot of money to do. And once they had the money for that, then they finished the damn thing and put it all together like a piece of puzzle. So it would also not surprise me that there had been extra wear and tear on that stupid torch, where its shelf life, and all the stuff that was going in the middle. Also, remember, Gustav Eiffel was the guy that built the framework for it all, the guy that built the Eiffel Tower.
I want to say a quick apology to chat. I had top chat on, not live chat. I try to make it always live chat, which means I probably missed a few chats that probably would have been good to know about. I don't know why YouTube wants me to always default to top chat. I never want that, so sorry, guys.
Yeah, did that to me too.
Yeah, I hate it. The thing is,
bad video.
I pop out the chat to make it easier for me to capture, and it reverts me back to top chat when I do that after I've already switched it. And it's like, come on, YouTube, really? Yeah. Oh, and we have another $5 super chat from. This is a long name, so bear with me. Sunflower, a.k.a. Big Helianthus, a.k.a. Meat-Eating Vegan, for $5.
You can just call him Sunflower. He's Sunflower.
Okay. Well, at least for the first time, I want to give him his full proper title. His full proper academic title. RJ, what is an unpopular / fringe idea or theory that you've held at some point in your life that ended up being vindicated?
Oh, the vindicated part. I was about to tell you about a cockamamie idiot view I had when I was just coming into college. I was a Velikovskyan, which is just claptrap stupid, and I cringe at all of that. But an idea that ended up being vindicated, I'm trying to think right offhand of something which I was kind of looking into. I was fairly quick to adopt warm-blooded dinosaurs, which it took quite a while to get a farther argument along on that, although their form of endothermy is not quite the same as what we find in mammals and blah, 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 and all of that stuff. I suppose one that's still in the pending category is the Baja, BC issue about there's a chunk of Pacific Northwest land that some scenarios point to the idea that it was a stuff that was pulled apart on faults where pieces of Mexico get dragged northwards all the way up to British Columbia. That's the Baja BC model. And there's still some back and forth. It's not widely accepted, although there are various camps going back and forth on it, and it all relates to how plates are moving out in the Pacific Ocean and all of that. And I've got a little bit of a soft spot on that. So I'm rooting for Baja BC.
Interesting. I actually have something that was a little unpopular. I don't think it was ever fringe, but it wasn't popular that I held. That is now largely the consensus, which was that the Oculodentavis find, which was a skull preserved in amber, was probably not a dinosaur and probably was a lizard.
Oh, that one, yeah.
Yeah, it turns out I was right about that one.
Yeah,
I think I even publicly stated before the paper was retracted that I was like, you know, guys,
it was enticing. You just wanted it to be a little tiny little dinosaur, but
I mean, it would have been cool.
You gotta look really close.
But the
And
thing was,
that's why paleontology takes time and it takes care.
the teeth were so there were some teeth still in the skull. It was only a cranium, so we don't have a lower jaw. But it looks like actually most of the upper teeth were preserved. I'm actually looking at scans of the fossil right now. And yeah,
Were they the kinds of teeth that grew straight out of the skull, or were there sockets? Because I remember that was one thing that you taught me that really, I really loved that topic about whether or not the teeth grow straight out of the jaw or whether it has a socket like we do.
So I'm looking at the skull.
What's the technical term for that?
Oh, so the lizards have what's called pleurodont teeth, which means they don't have a socket. Instead, there's a little like sort of ridge that they pop out of. And then thecodont teeth is what archosaurs and mammals have, where they have a socket. So I'm looking at these scans, and it's hard to tell, but one of the things that you can sometimes do is a lot of animals with thecodont teeth, you can see sort of the outline of the socket along the tooth-bearing parts of the skull, and this does not have that I can see. So while it is tiny, and it's probably hard to say for 100% certain, it does look like they could very well be pleurodont teeth, which would go in line with them being a lizard. I mostly based it on the fact that the skull morphology in terms of like fenestrae didn't seem to match up. So like we didn't have any antorbital fenestra. There was no the temporal fenestrae didn't seem to match up with a bird. There were some pretty obvious superior temporal fenestrae, but no inferior temporal fenestrae, which is like
all the archosaurs
lizard.
have antorbital fenestra.
So some archosaurs have secondarily lost the antorbital fenestra. Crocodilians are a really big example of that. So there are also some dinosaurs that have lost it, but it is fairly ubiquitous in Archosauria, which the fact that all birds have it, or at least all birds I know of have it, also is one of the things that made me think, maybe not a bird, but that is my originally unpopular idea that I was later vindicated on, was that Oculodentavis, not a dinosaur. And also, I'm very impressed, Rose, that you actually remembered thecodont versus pleurodont teeth.
That's that tiny is going to be really hard to investigate.
Yeah, so I do think, though, let's talk about this this finding of an M and a P. So, Rose, can you...
Yeah, I was waiting for that, actually.
Set that up for us. Paint the picture.
I actually posted the link of the video that Alex sent me that I watched before our debate into the chat here. So are you able to click on it, or do you want me to click on it and then share my screen? I'm actually not familiar with this Google platform.
That'd probably be the easiest. I looked into a bit of the side, but I haven't seen
in keeping with
the video itself.
So I'm looking at it just to make sure.
I know why I wasn't hearing about it earlier.
I'm looking at it off screen just to make sure that we can get to the part that's important without it being something that's going to get me in trouble for copyright problems. So
yeah, good idea. I don't think you will, because it's quite short, and it really is just the footage of the boat and that little piece that says MP. It's so short, and you guys will probably have an explanation for it right away. So I figured you would.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to paste it in the chat, and later I'm going to put it in the description. But what I think everyone should do is check it out. It's only 42 seconds. So if you already looked at it, RJ, did you look at it?
Yeah, I didn't know if you were talking to us or the audience. I was going to say.
I'm talking
I've
them
read
too.
an analysis of it.
Okay, so since you guys have seen it, and now the audience has the link, because I just put the link in the chat, why don't you guys talk about it? First, Rose, why don't you tell us what your take on this is? What is happening according to Rose?
Okay, so I haven't made a conclusion about it, because to me, an M and a P could just like be anything. Maybe there's a part of a boat where there's a section that there was some other word that contains an M or a P. But according to this particular clip, I'm just going with what the narrator is saying, that this is a spot where maybe there was like a Titanic put over it, but then those letters fell off. And then now you see these engravings of an M and P. And maybe it was because it said Olympic there, and that was just a piece of the word. But I mean, I'm not married to it. I just am curious to know what you think, because you know more about this boats than I do about where an MP could possibly be. And if you could honestly tell me that you have no idea why there would be an MP there, but it's obviously not the word Olympic, that's cool with me too. But if you're like, oh yeah, that's the part of the ship where it would be, you know, the word bump. The word bump is there, which has an M and a P. That's why that's there. Then that would make sense to me too. I just don't know what it is.
Would you consider the idea that the video is fake?
Sure, of course. Yeah.
Because I looked at it and I can certainly tell that M and that P. Number one, there is no other reproduction of this particular footage. Number two, there are no underwater cameras used on any submersibles that have went down to the Titanic. What's camera would have looked like that. Number three, it's much, much brighter than would actually be if you were 1.5 miles below the ocean looking at a ship. Number four, you can obviously tell that the M and the P are not actually engraved on the metal. They do not at all look engraved. I mean, I'm sorry. For me personally, it looks obviously fake. And number five, I have a video here that shows when Robert Ballard initially went down, and I think it was like 84 or 85, where he, on the stern, they cleaned away some rust, and you can... It's not very, legible, but you can certainly make out some of the letters in the word Titanic. And even some of them have even seen some of the letters of the word Liverpool written below the word Titanic, which was the Liverpool. Liverpool is, I believe, its place of birth, if I remember correctly.
In terms of faking video, I will say that I could probably fake that video in less than a day. I already know exactly how I would do it.
And in fact, that's what it was accused of being. It was from a older conspiracy theory video that had come out, and it was a matter of CGI. And part of the problem is none of the White Star ships had engraved letters on, plates on them. There was nothing to fall off. That wasn't how it worked. All of the ocean liners had stuff that was engraved directly into the hull. And the fact that the other corroborating part is that Ballard and Cameron and a whole slew of other people in submersibles have been poring over the Titanic. No one has ever been able to spot this. And he's quite right about the fact that the image is way too bright. It's an early 1990s CGI attempt, just plopped into place. And so I don't have to worry about what the MP meant. It was never on the ship.
You guys are looking at an early 2020s CGI attempt here in the... in my window, just so you know.
So the thing is that Gardner himself in July of 2013 wrote to Alexandria Bruce, who works for Forbidden Knowledge TV, and said the following, quote, "I have just been made aware that you are broadcasting a film under the heading, 'Was the Titanic deliberately sunk by J.P. Morgan?' Original title, 'Why They Sank the Titanic,' on your Forbidden Knowledge TV, internet TV channel. This film was made by Mr. Andrew Newton back in 2000. The only picture in the entire production to which Mr. Newton had any rights at all was one late in the film, supposedly showing where the name on the wreck had been altered. This particular picture was a fake, and I have an email from the producer of the film confirming this," end quote.
Well,
when Gardner says that, that's kind of conclusive.
Well, that is an excellent explanation. I really appreciate you guys clearing that up. I wish we could have done that during the debate, but there was that whole issue with playing it.
There was a lot of screaming.
I had to do a look up on it because I had never heard about it. It was so far down the food chain of arguments that it popped up in anything that I had ever studied. Leo and I, and Colton for that matter, we are all people who you can't drag us away screaming from any new information about the Titanic. So if anything comes along, we're constantly absorbing it into our understanding.
Actually, that's part of the story of this debate that I don't think has really been publicly told yet, and I'm going to tell it now. So, a few weeks ago, I got a Twitter message from James, like James, who hosts Modern Day Debate, saying, "Hey, would you like to debate whether or not the Titanic sank?" And I'm like, I don't know the first thing about that, but you know who does? RJ. And so James was like, "Wait, for real?" And I was like, "Yeah, no, dead serious. RJ can talk for hours about the Titanic." And he's like, "Oh, I never knew that." So next thing I know, RJ's talking. Yep. And the next thing I know, RJ's talking about, "Oh, hey, James messaged me." And I'm like, "Yep, yes, he did. You're welcome."
Yeah, he immediately contacted me and he said, "Would you be interested in debating this point?" I say, "Oh, hell yes."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, dude, when he contacted me and said, "Would you be willing to debate did the Titanic really sink?" I was like, "Abso-fucking-lutely." By the way, Dapper,
There's our
could I
F-bomb
share...
for the stream, everybody.
Yeah, and I didn't know you were a
I'm
fellow
sorry. I'm so sorry.
Titanophile.
Okay, we get one.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so I'll write on. Can I share my screen? I just wanted to show, and it's like a 2-minute video, but I'm not going to show the whole thing. The actual clip that Robert Ballard
As long as it's
took
family
in-
friendly.
Oh yeah, it's just a picture of the clip that Robert Ballard took in
No fornicating
in 1984, I think.
Stuff is happening on the ship.
There's no fish hanky-panky going on down there?
Not that I know of, no.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, I
it
mean,
was
there
an
must be.
epochal discovery.
There must be some fish hanky-panky going on. Otherwise,
It
we'd
was
run
one
out
the
of
great
fish.
Ship discoveries.
Not in the
of
video, that's
all
for
Oh,
sure.
time.
right, okay.
So bloody deep.
Let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready when you are. Also,
That's true.
Mr. Cameron, please don't sue me.
Yeah, you could have some shrimp doing it down there.
This
in
is
the
Ballard,
dining
Robert Ballard.
Oh,
Believe me.
Sorry,
On this topic,
Mr. Ballard,
he
don't
ain't
sue
gonna
me.
sue you.
Okay.
He's not gonna sue you. The T is, and this is on the stern. The T is pretty obvious, I think, there. And this is after they remotely cleaned away some of the rust, some of those blue spots. You can indicate where they scraped away a lot, exposing some of the rotten painting and stuff like that was on the hull.
Oh my gosh. Am I the only one that gets creeped out by this footage?
No, it's creepy
It's
for me
creepy, but at the same time, it's
it's
kind of interesting.
Yeah.
It's
just like-
you're effectively going around a funeral, right? And you're in such a
Right.
dark, eerie environment that yes, you should go. Oh, there should be little quivers going up and down your back, and there's
Yeah.
no major.
Sorry to
ship
imagine
sinking
all
that
of the
takes
water in
place
between you
such
and the
a
surface.
terribly difficult place to get to.
Yeah, no, this is...
Yeah.
I mean, look, there's a reason it took so long to get there. It's because this is an environment that's more hostile than the moon.
2 miles down.
Yep.
Like,
The Lusitania was easy to get to, and the Britannic, they're in relatively shallow water. In fact, the Lusitania is so shallow that when it sank, it's an 800-foot long, well, 780-foot long. When it sank, the bow slammed into the bottom of the English Channel, and the ship quivered at that point. The back end was still out of the water.
Yeah,
and then
I just
continued to sink. So, but
I
not
just
like
wanted to
the Titanic that broke apart and went down into the terrible darkness.
I wanted to
Now
say
you'll notice
quickly,
also,
Go ahead,
just to Rose really quickly. Notice how in this video there isn't any blacking out on the screen. You wouldn't expect this. What you see is what you would expect from a recorder on a submersible. The other video, and I'm not like attacking you for this. I mean, you're just sharing what you have available to you. I mean, respect
Right.
to that. But that video is that's a fake. That's just.
Okay.
And I've seen other videos of submersibles. I mean, I could go on YouTube. I'm going to stop sharing this. We can go on YouTube and look at videos. That is not what submersibles look like. The background, there's not all these dark spots. It doesn't look immediately as bright. It's usually a full screen. Your visibility is maybe, I think, like you can get 2, maybe 3 meters, depending on, your lights and everything like that. Because down there, I mean, your average like house flashlight would maybe shine a foot, if that.
so I have
It's dark down there.
a quick thing to point out
that's
for...
why Cameron had such trouble. He had to have really big lights down there to be able to film down there because it's so incredibly dark.
All right,
And just
I have a quick thing.
really
for chat.
quickly, by
Nope,
brightness, we
nope,
mean like
nope.
10,000 lumen plus.
This is a quick thing
wow.
for chat. Hey guys, jokes are cool. Bigoted jokes aren't. There you go. That's just where I'm going to go with it. So we only had one person have this problem, but I'm just putting it out there in case anyone else is considering using, say, sexism or racism or homophobia or
Back
ageism
off.
as a joke. Nope. So there you go. We are.
I was just so amused by Alex making fun of my age.
Yeah.
I really don't like it when he does that, and I will apologize on his behalf. It really saddens me when that happens.
I joke back that I likely am going to outlive him, and I'm not making this up. I
You
was
are,
born
because
when
he horribly.
Harry Truman. I was born when Harry Truman was president. My dad was born when Teddy Roosevelt was president. His dad was born when Andrew Johnson was president. We have a rather long live family.
Well, RJ, maybe you'll outlive all of us. Although I will say that when I hatched, there wasn't even a president to be there because it was, about 150 million years ago.
I mean, you've got us all beat. You got millions and millions of years on us, you bastard.
Yeah. So my question when things like that come up is always like, okay, how old does someone have to be before that makes them wrong? Because there is no answer to that, right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing when someone says something like that to me. It's like, okay, well, how, like, whatever insult that you're using, I think back to the one that I recently put out where, for some reason, without any evidence, claiming that I was gay was supposed to be a thing to counter my points, and I was like, okay, let's just assume it's true. How gay do I have to be before my points about science are wrong? Because I think the answer is there is no amount.
Does that mean that being bisexual, you're half wrong?
I mean, maybe. Maybe that just gives you a 50-50 chance on being right or wrong about anything. So
Right.
yeah, it's a weird thing. And also, neither that video nor any of my responses to it are me saying anything about my orientation. That isn't something that you guys get to know because it isn't important.
Exactly.
Do dinosaurs even have that? Like,
Have you not heard about the gay swans? Swans are super gay, man.
oh well.
Yeah.
More power to the swans.
I mean, not
Shit.
all of them, but a lot of them are super gay. So we actually now have 2 super chats. So give me a second. One is for $4.99 US from Confight. Wasn't Ballard's exposition a cover for the US Navy to recover 2 Soviet nuclear submarines? Isn't that the real conspiracy here? I haven't heard that.
Okay, wait. What?
No.
Oh, wasn't Ballard's exposition?
I think he means expedition.
Yeah, there have been various bombs lost, and there's been all sorts of things. I think it's not either the Glomar Challenger or one of the other ones. I think one of Howard Hughes's companies was involved in some of this thing where they would kind of sneak in and publicly they're not actually searching for bombs. They're doing something else, and it's understandable. I mean, when the military loses a bomb, a plane crashes, or there's some accident with a submarine, they're not exactly anxious to put it out on the evening news. In addition to the fact that there were adversaries, the Russians and others, and that, so they tend to slip in rather surreptitiously to find that. This would, I think, be examples. There were several ones that were lost. I think some off the coast of Spain back in the 60s, and I think there was some in the Mediterranean that were lost.
Can I just wanted to say really quickly, because RJ had mentioned planes, and it brought my. So the only other thing, it's not a conspiracy, but that people have attached a conspiracy to that I've done any major research in, and I came across a video. I was watching a bunch of videos on old historical events, accidents, that wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, the Halifax explosion, stuff like that. And I came across a video discussing the disappearance of the Malaysian Airlines flight MH370 that disappeared in March of 20forteen. If anybody remembers that,
Yes.
the one that just went off the face of the fucking planet.
What happened?
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Leo,
Gabba, I
you
really
now
am. I'm
owe,
so
you
sorry.
owe me a $10 super chat. According to the rules, now to be fair, I don't know that I've ever actually enforced the rules, but by bringing it to our rating, I do normally say
foul-mouthed
you
young
owe
man.
me $10.
I really am sorry about that.
This is a family-friendly
What
show,
happened with that
Leo.
flight?
This is a
What's that?
family-friendly show.
I genuinely am sorry.
All right, before we get into the plane, though, we have to finish up
Go.
the conversation about nuclear submarines, and then 2 more super
yeah.
chats, because you guys super chats are coming in faster than I can get to them now. Which, thank you guys. I really, really appreciate it.
Fast and Furious, that should be a movie.
So it sounds like we're pretty well covered on the submarine things. So Tiktaalik is for 100 Argentinian pesos, which I had to be told way too many times is what that currency was. It says, Saturn didn't have rings when I was born. Oh, this is from TikTok, sorry. Saturn didn't have rings when I was born. I win, take that RJ. So there you go.
Yeah.
Raw Nakedness for $5 says, how much you want to bet this weird theory originated with Russian oligarchs trying to further destabilize American society? So
It was the Russians.
So Rose, what do you think? Could it actually be that the Titanic didn't sink is actually a disinfo psyop from Russia?
The conspiracy is a conspiracy.
Gosh.
I mean, I can't prove it's not.
Exactly, yeah.
To be fair, people are capable
I'm getting a little
of full-grown dumb.
Oh, that's all right. I mean, look, I'm sure it's late where you are. So feel free to drop out if you need to. I promise we won't be mean behind. Well, I won't be mean behind your back. I can't promise for these two.
No, absolutely not. I like Rose.
I think Dapper's advice is excellent on you breaking out, because you naturally ask questions, and it's perfectly fine to ask a really good question and to probe until you get something that explains it to you and head away with it. And frankly, disconnect from Alex, who's just a jerk.
So I did want to say to Rose before she goes,
Yeah.
This is the first debate that I've been in with her, and I thought that she didn't talk much, but when she did, I noticed a lot of what I interpreted as genuine inquiry. And when she goes into some of these debates, she might not take the position that I would agree with, but she always, at least from what I've seen, she always announces like, hey, I'm not committing myself to this. I'm willing to change my opinion. And it seems to me, Rose, that you go into these because you're trying to learn more about things. And I genuinely, even if we disagree on things, I genuinely encourage you to keep that mindset up, because that is what it's all about.
Thank you so much, my friend. And I would also be open to talking to you about flat Earth and
yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, feel free to reach out to me anytime. And as for the Titanic, I'm not married to either side. I think that everything that you guys presented is extremely compelling, and now I'm more inclined to believe that it is how you guys have described it. I would just need to look into it more for myself, and then I just thank you so much for that. And I don't think I will be returning to modern day debate until I truly feel that I have researched a topic enough to defend it myself, instead of just being on a team. I was thinking, well, before I go, what do you guys think of this idea? I've been thinking about the whole mud flood Tartaria conspiracy theory, and I'm calling poppycock on it. And I was thinking that although it might really piss off a lot of my friends, maybe I could go on and actually debate against my own friends and explain that Tartaria and mud flood didn't actually happen, because I'm finding more information. Like, for example, they always say, why are the cities empty? It's like, hello, back then when you take a photograph, it's because it didn't capture things that were moving. So if people were walking around the street, they wouldn't be captured in the photograph. That's why you'll sometimes see one lone horse standing there, because it just happened to be standing still for long enough to be captured in the photo. And that's just something that I came up with through my own logic and reasoning. And so then I went down and I found a couple other channels of people that were debunking it. And so maybe that will be my next thing that I look into. And I think maybe the historical people like that.
So I know Rose wants
had such a long exposure time that your chance, unless you just stood there for 20 minutes, you're invisible. You're not even a blur. So there are cityscapes of some of the very earliest photographs that were taking place in the 1850s that are ghostly like that.
Real quick, guys, we have one last super chat that's come in so far, and it is $5 US from Apocalypse Here, who says, Leo and RJ are bae. So there you go.
Oh, thank you.
Rose, before you do go, we have had requests.
Is that a good thing?
Yes. We have had requests for how people could reach out or contact you. So do you have a YouTube channel or a website or something that people can find you on?
I just put my email into the chat. I know that you have another email. I have a couple of email addresses. None of them are secret. So if someone has my email address, you can give them whichever one you have. But I just put this one because it's really easy to remember. Contact rose777@protonmail.com. Contact is in the name. That was a big mistake, putting the word contact into it. because people just will do gross 777. But yeah, so I just love meeting people and hearing new ideas. And it's just, you guys have such a wealth of information just coming into these debates. It just makes you realize just how much there is to know out there about so many different things. And lastly, there's just one more historical thing. Since I wasn't prepared for the debate tonight, I just thought I would throw in one little interesting historical thing and find out who in the chat knows about this one too, like the Black Tom. Can I do one more?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so who here has heard about Torpedo Alley? The Torpedo Alley off North Carolina is one of the graveyards of the Atlantic Ocean, because we were talking about creepy things like the Titanic, named for the high number of attacks on Allied shipping by German U-boats in World War II. Almost 400 ships were sunk, mostly during the Second Happy Time in 1942, and over 5,000 people were killed, many of whom were civilians and merchant marines. Torpedo Alley encompassed the area surrounding the Outer Banks, including Cape Lookout and Cape Hatteras.
That I have heard.
Yeah,
of.
that is indeed the case. And one of the things that finally nipped that in the bud was the breaking of the German submarine code, so that they were able to anticipate where the vessels were and steer around them, and also developing proximity mines. There were a whole bunch of other things and technologies that were developed. But yes, in the first couple of years of the war, things were perilously bad. And the amount of deaths, there were oil slicks washing up on the coast and Florida and other places. That's why they had to do blackouts. The cities, the submariners would use all the brightly lit American cities in Florida and along the coast of that to locate, and they would listen to the radio programs and use them to home in on where they were on location. Yeah, it was a perilous time.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you for adding to that. All right, you guys, I'm going to head out and just.
Can I say one more really quick thing, Rose?
Oh, Leo,
So
come on. Okay.
if you want to have a discussion on like a platform that's like not a modern day debate with like 50K subs or something like that about flat Earth, just let me know. Like we can have an email exchange, because there's a bunch of smaller platforms if you want something that's a little bit more, relaxed and everything like that. There's definitely other channels, and we can set it up to where, I mean, it's not even a debate, it's a discussion if you want to just have a discussion, or we could do it privately. It's, whatever works for you.
Or my channel or your channel.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you, Rose.
There you go, Rose. Let me give you one little thought provoker of somebody who was on the Titanic. She was a servant on board, one of the people in the white Titanic staff. She survived the ship. Some of the rare employees who survived the ship, as opposed to just passengers. And she then was serving on the Britannic as a nurse during the First World War when it was hit by the mine. And so she went down on both the Titanic and the Britannic and survived both.
Yikes.
Survived.
Wow. That's
right.
amazing.
Well, Rose, I'm just going to say goodbye.
Okay.
Thank you for coming.
Bye, my friends.
Take it easy.
All right. So, now I know that there were a few extra people who were interested in coming in. If you guys are okay, I'm going to send, I think, one invite. And then we'll see how it goes. So we're already coming up on the 1 hour mark. So we're at about the halfway point, guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to send that out, and then I am going to, what is the thing? Oh, yes, that's what it's called. I'm going to go to intermission real quick after I send out an invite. So if you guys in the chat would please hold on. It will not take very long. We have a 4-minute intermission here on Dapper Dino. And I usually like to put it at about the halfway point. I will say also, it is sort of shamelessly a commercial. For those of you who aren't familiar, it is straight up like,
I'm seeing
hey,
a call
guys.
ends in 5 minutes. Free group calls have a limit of 1 hour, just in case.
Yeah.
Well, there we go.
I'm seeing
That's a thing that I didn't know. Maybe, in fact, we'll just be ending at 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? That's what we're going to do.
It's the end of the world.
That's what we're going to do, guys.
I was actually going to get
All right,
going.
so real quick,
Yeah, it's
from
almost
God the
11:30.
Scummer, I'm from Southampton in the UK, so very familiar with the Titanic. Didn't watch the debate, but the insurance job conspiracy just doesn't hold up.
Very true.
Yeah, it seems very far-fetched to me. Now, like I've said, I don't have all of the details, but yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't buy. I just don't buy it. Fernando Katakai, I'm going to call you out as being dishonest here. He says he's older than Azathoth, but we all know that the universe is just Azathoth's dream, which means that because you're in this plane of reality, you can't be older than Azathoth. So deal with it, man. So
I want to know, is that plane a prop driven or a jet engine?
which plane?
The plane we're on.
Are we on a plane? I'm so confused.
Hey, you just said we were on a plane. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. I get it.
I mean, technically we are.
Yeah. All right. So what I wanted to say real quick is RJ, Leo, if you have anything to plug, go ahead and plug it real fast. And I mean real fast.
I have a website. I do Evolution Hour. I have books out. Buy them.
There you go. Leo?
I think he had a little bit more to... he's got a bit of a delay, so
that's it.
Okay. Yeah, I have a channel, Leophilius .com, Leophilius on YouTube. Check me out. I should have a video coming out Monday. It will be the second installment of a new series I'm doing, Bad Science Communication.
All right. So on this channel, Tuesday should be Eric with Erica. Do have to reconfirm with Erica, but I'm not anticipating a problem there. Thursday should be the next Speculative Evolution video. So if you're a big fan of my Speculative Evolution series, please check that out. It's going to be 1 hour and 8 minutes, so bring a snack. One of our contributors has extremely long descriptions for his entries, and so there you go. Let's see. Then Saturday, I believe, is going to just be another one of my Spirit Science videos. So if you want to come see something that's even dumber than Young Earth creation, show up and let us watch us talk about Spirit Science. I don't know if Golden Unicorn will be joining us. Maybe she will, maybe she won't. Let's see. The Tuesday after that should be another Kent with Bent. And then I think the next Thursday will be the final Canadian Young Earth Creationists video. So if you've been following that series, it should be ending in 2 weeks. Or 2 weeks, or a week from Thursday, whatever, you know. But yeah, I think that's as far ahead as I'm going to look. I am still planning on having a Leaving Young Earth Creationism with someone who is still a Christian, but who has left Young Earth Creationism. And that is going to be late in the month. And it'll also be on a Tuesday, so it's going to interrupt the normal Kent with Bent cycle. And I'm going to be working with Maddie from Science Side Up to figure out when we want to do Matt with Maddie, in which we talk about either Raw Matt or Matt Powell, whichever one strikes your fancy. But since I now have less than a minute left in this call, because apparently these things are limited, which I didn't know, I'm going to say thank you to Carrie Bronson, Sunflower, Confight, Tiktalik, Raw Nakedness, Apocalypse here, and Godless Scummer for super chatting and supporting the channel, which really means a lot, guys. And here are the end credits. I just want to take a second to thank my channel members and patrons, especially those pledging $20 and above. Bob Knob, Benthoven, Ian Chen, Sphincter of Doom, The Venerable Bede, Patrick Dennis, and Res Instance. My channel members and patrons help make this channel possible, and without their support, this channel really wouldn't exist. If you would like to help support the channel as a member or patron, there are links in the description to both join the channel as well as join the Patreon. Patrons and members get mentioned in these credit scenes, as well as getting early access to my scripted videos, and if you pledge $10 or above, you can also get access to various 3D assets that I create for Blender, both for use in the channel, as well as just general giveaways to my supporters to help in any Blender projects they might have. If a monthly or annual pledge isn't for you, then there is also a merch store linked to the description. And if none of that's right for you, please just like and subscribe, because every like and subscription really helps the video out. Thank you.